If I had to describe many SaaS entrepreneurs, I guess it would be optimism. They're excited. They have a hypothesis about a product and whether there'll be product market fit and whether they'll actually get people to buy the software. From your years as an entrepreneur, when you look at having a product and maybe it's not overnight success, but maybe it's about getting enough traction to keep you moving in the right direction. What's your advice to entrepreneurs who have launched a product and they're desperately looking for traction so that they can survive, let alone thrive? What advice would you give entrepreneurs who have a product that's early stage, still very volatile, still very uncertain? There's a lot of risk involved. What should they do to get traction of some kind? It doesn't have to be major traction, but enough traction to convince them to keep the lights on.
I think it depends what kind of company you're building. There are two kinds. There's a venture-backed, blitz scaling kind of companies who are going for the $10 billion, and there's bootstrapped companies. If you're in the former, you usually only work for that next stage. You work for the seed funding, then you work for the A round, then you work for the B round, then you work for it's very versus when you bootstrap, you have to figure out the end in the beginning. And you have a lot more time and you have to have a lot more patience. So it's different, fundamentally different. But I would say for the former one, for the entrepreneurs who are in a venture backed types of companies, the advice I would have is twofold. One is if you're very proud and content, by the time you get very proud and content with the first version that you're releasing to the market, you are way too late. If you're not nervous and you have a bunch of bugs and the UI looks like shit and it's breaking up in the middle of the demo, you're late. Because the worst thing to do is to build in a silo and release something. You're not building an iPhone. You're not going to be showing this to 5,000 journalists and be broadcasted on CNBC. That's not going to happen. Unless that's a company you're building and you Steve Jobs, rest in peace, that's not the company you're building. And you should be releasing it V 0.1 should already be in the market. And together with that is my second piece of advice, which is spend all of your time with customers, all of it. Take that little piece of shit, excuse my language, that you created. That's not this like piece of software that is like barely working, doesn't look good, but has a concept behind it, and have services surrounding that piece of software, and go to those customers that you have an hypothesis that are your ideal customer profile, and go and spend hours with them. Make sure that the problem that you're solving is the problem that they're thinking about day in, day out. Make sure that the idea that you have makes sense in their mind, and then make sure that they're willing to pay for it and how much. And then the final one is work with them from a services point of view to see that it actually is working. That is what fundamentally built our product. Those first few years we spent doing technical, repetitive, mundane tasks, and every time we detected a pattern, we went and coded it into the product. That's what led us to build the right product. If we just sat down in a room and tried to build something and launch it and assume that everyone is going to buy it, I don't think it would have worked. I think that's some of the fatal errors that companies are doing sometimes when they start software companies.